Good evening and welcome to this Cabinet meeting by virtue of the Local Authorities and Policing Crime Panels Regulations 2020. The requirement for public meetings to be made accessible to the public remains, and the link to the virtual meeting is available on the Council's website in the usual live meeting link page. If a connection to a member is lost during this meeting, I'll stop the meeting to enable the connection to be restored. If the connection cannot be restored within a reasonable time, the meeting will proceed, but the member who is disconnected will not be able to vote on the matter under discussion, as they would not have heard all of the debate. Should any aspects of the external link fail, I may call a short adjournment of up to 5 minutes or so to determine whether the connection can quickly be re-established. If the connection is not restored within that time, the meeting will be adjourned and any further business will not proceed until another time and date. Firstly, I need to ask all the Cabinet members on the call to notify the meeting of their attendance. So clearly I'm here. Councillor Shah, are you here?
Present.
Councillor Jabbar?
Present.
Councillor Mushtaq?
Present.
Councillor Moores?
Present.
Councillor Chowan?
Present.
Councillor Roberts?
Present.
And Councillor Brownridge?
Present.
So in the agenda, once the report's been introduced and discussed, I'll ask each member to indicate their agreement or not, again by roll call in the way that we've just done. The first item is apologies for absence, and the only apologies that I have received are from Councillor Chatterton. The second item is urgent business, and I have not been notified of any urgent business to be discussed. The third item is declarations of interest. I'll pause for a moment to allow any members on the call to declare any interest in the agenda. I'll take silence to mean that there are no interests that it's necessary to declare. Item 4 is public questions, and we have not received any public questions for this meeting. Item 5 is the minutes of the Cabinet meeting, which was held on the 19th of October 2020, which seems a long time ago. Are those, well, please indicate if you do not agree to those as a correct record. Nobody's indicated, thank you very much. So item 6 is the Treasury Management Mid-Year Review 2020-21. Before I hand over to Councillor Jabbar, who will introduce officers as necessary, just to remind members that there is no hand-raising function in the live meeting event form of Teams that we're using. So if you do want to speak on anything, drop a message in the chat saying that you wish to come in and I'll bring you in. But for now, it's Treasury Management Mid-Year Review 2020-21. Councillor Jabbar, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is a regular report that Cabinet receives, and then it also goes to Council. We're required to do this by law. So this report advises Cabinet of the performance of the Treasury Management function of the Council for the first half of 2020-2021 and provides a comparison of the performance against the 2021 Treasury Management Strategy and prudential indicators. Now, Chair, as I said, this requires for us to be considered by law, and also it's been, I'm pleased to tell you that it has been to our audit committee, where this report has been scrutinized by the members of the scrutiny committee. In terms of the performance, Chair, there isn't anything major that I need to draw the attention of the Cabinet members, except to say that in terms of some of the indicators, they have not been achieved, partly because of COVID and the reasons why, if you like, normal activities couldn't have been undertaken. So, for example, if you look at our capital program, we had a program of over 143 million. But because of COVID, we've not been able to achieve even half of that so far. So it's things like that that's been covered in the report. It is a technical report. It does contain actually a lot of important information, particularly if you look at 2.2 on page 8. It starts to give you detail about the economy and and what's happened and what's likely to happen. Obviously, it's a forecast. So if anybody's got time and they're struggling to sleep, I would ask you to look at this report in full. But in the meantime, Chair, I'm quite happy to take any question. And as you said, if there's anything I can't answer, then there are colleagues from the finance team and the executive team who will be able to give you a detailed answer.
Thank you, Councillor Jabbar. I actually tuned into Audit Committee when you can do it from the comfort of your own home without having to attend the council meeting, and to hear an interesting debate about the purchase of the spindles. But many of the questions that members were asking there were answered at the council meeting that followed. Unfortunately, I didn't catch this item, so this is your presentation was helpful. I've not seen any messages be placed in chat from members who wish to contribute, so the recommendations are to approve and commend to Council the Treasury Management activity for the first half of the financial year 2020-21 and the projected outturn position. The amendments to both the authorised limit and operational boundary for external debt are set out in the table at section 2.4.5 of the report, and amendments to the capital financing it's CFR, which is how it's referred to throughout the report, as set out in the table also at section 2.4.5. So if you are happy to approve and commend those things to council, then please indicate when I call your name. Firstly, Councillor Shah.
Agreed.
Councillor Jabbar.
Agreed.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Agreed.
Councillor Moores.
Agreed.
Councillor Chowan.
Agreed.
Councillor Roberts.
Agreed.
Councillor Brownridge.
Agreed.
And I also agree to those recommendations too. Thank you very much for your patience. Item 7, now on to the expansion of Kingsland School. Over to you, Councillor Mushtaq, and bring in any officers as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report is requesting Cabinet approve, sorry, just bear with me a second, expansion of Kingsland School. In the report it describes the issues facing, so we're basically trying to increase the PAN, which is the planned admission number, to 100 pupils. There are comparisons in the report with a neighbouring borough and who have a lot less students but a larger PAN. It's a specialist provision working with permanently excluded young people and those that need specialist provision. So that's the ask of Cabinet today. I'll keep it short. If anyone's got any question, I've just seen Gerard pop up as well, if need be. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mushtaq. I'm not seeing anybody wishing to speak on this item. I know from my time as a school governor that there has been pressure on this kind of provision in Oldham, and we've needed to expand it for some time, so I'm glad that that is going to be actioned through agreement to this report, pending its agreement of course. But if nobody wishes to come in on this, then the recommendations are to note the options set out in the report and approve option 2 with the recommended interventions. Approve spend up to £500,000 to support the delivery of the works needed to progress immediately, with further delegated authority to the Director of Economy and Director of Finance for an additional £250,000 should this be required to complete the scheme. I'll call people's names now. Councillor Shah.
Agreed.
Councillor Jabbar.
Agreed.
Councillor Mushtaq.
Agreed.
Councillor Moores.
Agreed.
Councillor Chowan.
Agreed.
Councillor Roberts.
Agreed.
Councillor Brownridge.
Agreed.
And I agree also. So that report is agreed with all members present voting in favour. Moving on. Item 8 is the Green Homes Grant Local Authority Delivery Scheme. We will hear what we can hear at this point, but we will have to move into part B of the meeting, and the vote will take place on this item once Cabinet's considered the commercially sensitive information that will be heard once the press and public have been excluded. So, Councillor Roberts, tell us what you can in the public part of the meeting.
Thank you very much. So Oldham led on this bid for Greater Manchester. So we did the work to submit the bid for installation of upgraded insulation and other energy saving measures across Greater Manchester. This is because we've got a well-developed Warm Homes Oldham scheme, and also because we are able then to call off our contractor to deliver. And given that while this is very welcome funding, it all has to be delivered at pace by the end of March, it was important that we were able to proceed as quickly as possible. Because of this, we're well placed as a local authority to maximise the benefit for Oldham, and also just to note that we are taking the opportunity as a landlord for the Crossley estate, which is retained by the local authority under the PFI scheme, to upgrade the insulation on the Crossley estate. And obviously that's the body of the report and the financial arrangements we will take in Part B. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Roberts, for introducing that. The Warm Homes Oldham scheme and the operation that we have here in Oldham is something that we can be incredibly proud of, and I'm not surprised that we've been selected to deliver this and the options that have been made available to us. My proudest piece of casework is negotiating somebody through the Warm Homes Oldham scheme to get them a new boiler down in Failsworth. It later transpired that they didn't actually live in my ward, so whilst they got them a new boiler and it meant that the home was nice and warm for Christmas, they couldn't return the favour by voting for me, but it was a nice thing to do anyway. I've got a queue of people that wish to speak. First of all is Councillor Moores.
Yes, I'm very pleased to see this coming to Cabinet, but could I just put things into context? In 2009, plans were being put in place to refurbish the properties on the Crossley estate. Then in 2010, the Conservative Lib Dem government came to power and Grant Shapps took the decision to reduce the funding for the project. Unfortunately, this meant the council and its partners had to work with a reduced budget and installed insulation in line with the funding we had at that time. Since the completion of the original scheme, the ward councillors have continued to receive representations from residents regarding issues of damp and heating with these properties. And at this point, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all those who have worked hard and have now succeeded in securing additional funding to further improve the insulation, which should result in reduced fuel bills, warmer homes and benefit the health of residents. Can I just finish by saying this proposal is great news for the residents of the Crossley estate, and it will be welcomed by the residents and the ward councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Moores. I've got Councillor Jabbar that wishes to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I too welcome this report. And can I take this opportunity again to thank Warm Home Oldham. They do a fantastic job and they've been doing it for a long time. And Hannah Roberts, now as the cabinet member, she's doing a fantastic job keeping that organisation going through this tough time. But my main point was, Chair, that as well as welcoming this, I mean, it only deals with property rating EFG. And we know that in this country, carbon emission comes from two big sources. Firstly, domestic properties, and secondly, transport. And if we are to seriously meet the climate change challenge, then government needs to actually widen the support for domestic properties. So whilst I'm very, very pleased and support this report, I think there is a genuine case for expanding this scheme to consider other properties. I mean, if you look right, EPC rating EFG, that is really bottom of the scale. We should be at least targeting midway through, so that we try to stop decarbonisation by reducing carbon emission and giving people better homes, more efficient homes, and particularly in this challenging time when people are facing real financial hardship. So the government talks about green agenda and recognises this and has been recognised for a number of years, but actually hasn't done anything substantial. So I hope this is a beginning of a wider programme that will genuinely benefit the people of Oldham, but also benefit of this, the residential property occupiers of this country. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jabbar. You made a number of good points there about the need to reduce carbon emissions and also the potential to save some quite some people on low incomes some money through reduced energy bills. But I think when we're in the midst of a crisis that's led us to be meeting separately, and when we're in the midst of a crisis that's causing economic damage that means many people won't have jobs when we come out of this, and many of them have already lost them, there's a real opportunity now that the government really needs to seize through investing in retrofitting renewable technology and energy efficiency measures on our existing housing stock. I'm sat here in a interwar semi-detached house on an estate in Failsworth. I don't know what the letter of the rating of our home is, but I don't think that it's as bad as those that will be eligible for this, but it's certainly not an A star that means that we couldn't benefit from some investment in insulation or renewable technology to both reduce our bills and reduce our carbon emissions. So it would be a real missed opportunity if the government didn't do something much more significant on this agenda to create jobs and to meet our carbon reduction targets as a nation. And I hope that they will take the initiative and do that soon. I've got Councillor Chowan who wishes to come in on this item too. See.
Thank you, Chair. I too welcome this report and want to congratulate administration Farmhouse Oldham, where not only residents of Oldham will benefit from their expertise, but actually clearly demonstrates that Oldham provided something for across Greater Manchester. So one way of looking, which is obviously very important to reduce the carbon emission, financial impact, but another way to look at it is loads of inequalities in our society, and hopefully this will help us deal with some of those inequalities. So we will feel better as this administration that some children at least will sleep in warm house, some elderly would not suffer from hypothermia. There are some residents who will help to, this scheme will help them to prevent their flare up of their asthmas and other issues. So it's more of a humanitarian effort from this administration, which we have been working on it when others did not pay attention. We carried on working, and that hopefully I'm hoping will help us to deal with some of the inequalities while we're trying to deal with other inequalities in our society and for the residents of Oldham. So I just want to congratulate to this administration and Councillor Robert as well for the great work she's done. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chowan. So that's another benefit to investing in renewable technology and energy efficiency measures. It will deliver benefits for people's health and reduce pressure on acute services too. So there's so many reasons that the government should be taking this agenda more seriously and and injecting significant amounts of money into it, and it would reap dividends in the long term. Councillor Roberts, do you wish to respond to any of the points that have been made before I do the roll call?
Just briefly, just to say a couple of things. So I agree with all of the benefits that have been identified. I think it is worth noting that actually the government didn't allocate the full budget that it had put aside for this. Now, I don't know if that's because they didn't receive, bids that they thought could actually be delivered to their timescale. But there might be, therefore, an opportunity for us to bid again if we successfully deliver it in terms of the funding that we currently have. So I suppose that's kind of the most important point to make. I think we've already raised the issue that Councillor Jabbar raised about the energy rating of the homes and trying to look at if we can do something for properties that fall outside of that, and we'll continue to press that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Right, I'll proceed to the roll call vote now. Oh, no, I won't, because we can't do it until we've heard the confidential information in Part B. So thanks to everybody for your comments. We'll make a decision on this item once we have thrown out the virtual press and public. Item 9, Hollingwood Junction and housing delivery options. These are in both my name and Councillor Roberts' name. I'm not overly desperate to present this report, Councillor Roberts, if you want to,
I was expecting that you would, Chair.
All right, no, it's all right. I can do it. Fine. So it has been our ambition to see homes developed on the former Cascamore school site down at Hollingwood Junction, which is part of a wider plan to regenerate the area and bring in a mixed-use development, including leisure and retail businesses too, on the Albert Street, not actually that far from my own home. The Cascamore site, which is on the south side of Roman Road, has been assessed as being able to accommodate up to 150 properties. It's currently unallocated in our LDF, but it is it could accommodate up to 150 2, 3 and 4 bedroomed houses, which would meet the needs of the local community as determined from the council's housing strategy, which came forward to council a number of months ago. So this is agreeing our approach as to how those homes will be delivered on that site. It is not a site within the Greenbelt, so these are new homes that are not being proposed on Greenbelt land. That is for another day. But it is something that will improve our housing mix in Oldham, and we just need to agree a way forward so that we can deliver those new homes that we want to see there. So the preferred option is set out in the paper, but again, there is some information that we need to hear in part B of the meeting. So if nobody's got any comments on this, then I'll move on to exclusion of the press and public. Can somebody move and somebody second, please?
Move, Chair.
Move. Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Jabbar. I'm going to ask if there's any dissent on that, because I don't believe that I need to take a roll call. No?
No.
No, thank you. Okay, so we'll turn off the live link and we'll move into the confidential items.